I'm Lisa, if you don't know me already. Today I'm going to be going through After Darkness by Christine Piper. And before we get into this video, I want to let you guys know that we have written up a blog post about this on my website vcstudyguides.com, and that is very comprehensive with lots of quote banks there for you, themes, things that you should watch out for, and you can download that PDF as well if you wanted to save it for your studies. So I will link up the blog in, the top somewhere. Which one? I don't know. Doesn't matter. And as a bonus as well, if you sign up to our mailing list, which is at the bottom of the blog post, then you will find a free text response, like essay structure mini guide. So check that out, but otherwise let's just get into this. Background. After Darkness follows 3 timelines. The first timeline is set in Tokyo, Japan, against the backdrop of World War II. We follow Ibaraki as he studies to be a doctor following in his father's footsteps and marries his child friend Kayako. Ibaraki is assigned to Unit 731, a laboratory within the Army Medical College, and is sworn to the utmost secrecy around his work. With our new responsibilities comes a new set of concerns, issues of duty, loyalty, and prudence, or what I call discretion. We discover the discreetness required of him is due to Unit 731's work on developing the bubonic plague as biological warfare, while using innocent and presumably unwitting people as test subjects. Meanwhile, his relationship with Kayako breaks down after the miscarriage of their first baby. The second timeline is set in Broome, 1938 to 1941, Western Australia, where Ibaraki works as the head of a small hospital. He has moved to Australia in an attempt to escape the shame of being fired from the Army Medical College, as well as his memories of his time there. It's in Broome that he meets the kind and amicable nurse and nun, Sister Bernice, whose skill in making her patients comfortable and at ease is in stark contrast with Ibaraki's reticent behaviour. Third is during 1942 at Loveday internment camp in South Australia, after Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. With the Japanese now labelled as enemy aliens, as Westerners feared that they would become spies if they were left at large, Ibaraki is imprisoned as an internee at Loveday along with Australian-born Japanese and Hafus, or mixed-race Japanese. Ibaraki meets Stan and Johnny Chang here, and it is his experiences in the camp which catalyze a journey of personal growth, particularly from the stance of honor and silence to voice and communication. And these themes are the major focus of today's video. Let's move into themes. Honor, duty, and pride. As I was reading this text, I found Ibaraki a really frustrating character, and to be honest, I really didn't like him at certain points in the novel, particularly when he stands the door on his way out of his home after Kayako's miscarriage. However, I can also understand why Christine Piper constructed his character in this way. The unwavering expectations of secrecy, all under the governance of His Majesty, and therefore the pressure to uphold honor, duty, and pride make you empathize with Ibaraki and his position. Coming from a Western point of view, it's easy for us as a reader to just be like, why don't you say something? To answer this, according to Christine Piper, is because of Japan's wartime mindset and culture. Japan has a shame-driven honor culture, in which behavior is determined by social standards rather than personal values. In such a model, group membership is of utmost importance. Shame more often paralyzes rather than makes them start a fight. Such paralysis was common in many former Unit 731 members in post-war Japan, unable to speak out for fear of bringing shame to themselves, their family, and their colleagues. The unspeakable memories continue to eat out their hearts. Throughout the novel, the words embarrassment, humiliation, shame, and pride are repeated over and over again, emphasizing the connotative value with which the Japanese hold these feelings, and therefore the inextricable need for Ibaraki to remain loyal to Unit 731's secret. Johnny Chang is the antithesis of Ibaraki. He's unafraid to voice his opinion and welcomes conflict unlike many other internees at Loveday. Don't tell me what to do like the rest of these assholes. He has no qualms about making himself an embarrassment to the compound, much unlike our narrator. While at first, Ibaraki finds Chang's behavior unreasonable. It is Chang who propels Ibaraki to break his silence for the first time and do good for others by suggesting a baseball intercompound competition. The power of words. Honor, duty, and pride, of course, are intertwined with the theme of silence. Throughout the novel, there are innumerous references to Ibaraki's silence. Silence fell between us as we passed under the stone gate and into the grounds of the temple. Was the silence a comfort or a terror to them? Silence stretched between us. Perhaps mistaking my silence for shock, she continued to speak. Literally speaking, you can see just how little Ibaraki speaks, even to his own wife. During a discourse between the two when Kayoko leaves for her parents, it's Kayoko who exclaims with a long verbal frustration, "How could you say that? All last year you were cold to me. You went out drinking, you stayed back late at work. I tried to get through to you, but you ignored me. Even when you were at home, you acted as if you didn't want to be near me. I tried to please you, but it was no use. I thought having a baby would change things, but..." A similar discourse happens when Sister Bernice dispels her inner thoughts about her departure to Geraldton. "Maybe I felt like that because you're always so secretive, or maybe it was because of something else, but it made me so ashamed. I wondered why God had burdened me with such feelings. Was He testing my faith? I really did think of giving up, of throwing it all away because of you." In juxtaposition, Ibaraki's feeble attempts to express himself are confined only to his inner dialogue. "I ached to hold her, to be close to her again. I sensed she was waiting for me to speak, but I couldn't bring myself to say the words." Silence, however, is depicted as damaging to the soul. This isn't anywhere better than described with the metaphor, "I noticed the river had frozen, the surface had turned silent, but the darkness of the icy grooves made me think of the flowing river beneath, the current below the surface, straining for release." This is reflective of Ibaraki himself, silent on the surface, yet full of overwhelming emotions underneath that are trapped and confined only within himself. His inability to voice or communicate his thoughts damage his relationships with those closest to him, Kayoko, Sister Bernice, and even his patient, Stan. In particular, something that stands out is how your own silence negatively impacts the people around you. Kayoko suffers even more on her lonesome after the miscarriage. Sister Bernice struggles with her feelings for Ibaraki, and Stan, in the most extreme form of the impact of silence, attempts suicide. We learn that choosing to be silent is a response in itself, and this type of response can easily be misconstrued by others. Christine Piper withholds the reason behind Ibaraki's secrecy until more than halfway through the book, demonstrating his parallel desperate desire to forget the past. It's only when he begins to speak up that his secret is revealed, highlighting how Ibaraki is finally ready to confront his past. We see the power of a voice when Ibaraki does strike up the courage to speak aloud. His baseball suggestion at the executive meeting is the ignition for a competitive sport which unites the prisoners alike. Regardless of race, we see how everyone reaps the benefits of the spoken word, with friendship, unity, and joy. At Loveday Camp, Ibaraki continues to grow by communicating more openly with others. He's able to repair his relationship with Stan and ultimately become his closest friend, something that was deemed too late for Sister Bernice and Kayoko. Despite earlier frustrations with Ibaraki and his reticence, his personal growth and learnings culminates in the final pages of the novel. With relief, we read that he's finally ready to take action on his own accord, and finally acknowledging his past trauma as he begins a letter. "I'm writing to you in the hope that you will publish my letter, because there is something the Japanese people should know." So I want to leave you with a few tips that I think will help you as you're studying After Darkness. The first one is, when you first start reading it for the first time, you're going to find that it's quite a slow start, or at least I found it to be quite a slow start. It took me a decent period of time for me to really get into the book and find that the action was happening. And I think that happens for a reason. The lack of action, I think, is reflective of his silence and how, he's trying to keep it within, so we don't see much into him. But as his past is unveiled, I think things get really interesting. So if you're struggling to get through this book, I'm just gonna say, just push through it. It does get better, but that slowness is there for a reason, so keep that in mind. The second thing is for you to read about World War II, internment camps, and Australia's attitudes towards the Japanese during this time. Having that knowledge of history contextualizes the information for you so that you better understand the relationships that are going on in this book, why there is so much tension, and why that exists. And that's going to be really helpful for you when you start writing essays, because you're going to be able to understand that deeper meaning behind the message of what Christine Piper is trying to say. The third thing I would recommend is a little bit more research, and that is into Japan's honor and silence, and that culture they've created during World War II and also the ramifications post-World War II upon its people. Christine Piper has her own website where there's a tab for students. I'll actually link that down in the description box below. She answers a few student questions, and I think her insight is really interesting for you. So go and have a read of that as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'll see you next week. Bye!